Hello and welcome to the next episode of my Sound Design Here Create series. This is Project 2, Bloom and Wilt, Episode 3, Bloom Contour. So let's recap what we're doing. Firstly, Sound Design Here Create is a sound design series where we take various projects based on prompts and we design sounds and create audio with them. In this case, the prompt is based on this flower, and the prompt is, here is a flower, create the sound of it blooming, then wilting. So far we made some placeholder audio, and then we came back and we used the Novation Peak to design a patch which we're going to use. Let's have a look at the time lapse of the flower and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do today. So what I've done is, I mentioned in the previous episodes, we're using the ranks or sort of outer to inner rings of petals to correspond to different aspects of the sound. Now I designed a sound with a few dimensions which we can use for controlling it, specifically channel pressure and mod wheel. So with the timeline that I've made and with that information in mind, we're going to make the sound for one of these ranks, and I'm going to show you the full process of that. But rather than take the time to demonstrate all of them, given that each one will require 1.5 minutes of audio be recorded, and I'm thinking of doing 12, so that's 18 minutes of recording time, plus me entering the numbers that I read from the video time-wise and converting them into automations on the timeline, I think that's going to be pretty boring to watch. So what you're going to see today is me doing one of these, and then in the next episode I'm going to come back having recorded all of the audio from them, and we're going to complete the process and then show the final piece. So I have the synthesizer in front of me. I'm not actually going to be using the keyboard, and effectively I'm not going to be touching the synthesizer, but this is where the sounds are going to be coming from. I'm going to go into Bitwig and then we'll talk about exactly how it's set up. So the setup thus far is pretty straightforward. On the master channel I've just put a compressor and a limiter just in case some of the sound comes in too loud, and I just want to normalize the volume because you'll be listening to the output of Bitwig. I also have made a pair of channels here. One of them is an instrument channel which is going to hold our hardware instrument, which is going to correspond to the peak. In this case, we're not actually going to use the audio return, and the reason we're not going to use the audio return is this is actually a MIDI track and I want to record the audio onto a separate track. So what I've done is I've made a separate audio track which is currently set to monitor, and this is corresponding to inputs 3 and 4, which are the inputs coming from my mixer going to my Zoom recorder that I use as an interface for recording these videos. So what I'll be doing then is I'll be writing the MIDI and the automation into this line, and then the audio will be written into the other line. So the first thing I want to do is think of the timeline here, and I'm just going to stretch out this loop region to correspond to about the timeline that we want. So this video is 1.5 minutes long, and what I thought would be easiest is if the number of seconds that we're interested in corresponded to the number of bars, so then we can very easily read things off of the timeline. So I'm going to make this, the bar counter starts at 1, so 91 would be exactly 90 seconds or 1.5 minutes, and I'll make it 1 longer. So now I'm going to put the counter there, and I'm now going to adjust the tempo until this says it's 1.5 minutes long, or thereabouts. Okay, that's exactly 1.5 minutes. So we're working at 241 BPM, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but it doesn't really matter in this case. So I mentioned before that I was going to be making these notes go in ascending fourths. And I think when I did them, I started them at an F sharp. So what I'll do is I'll drop in a MIDI clip here, and we'll go into edit that MIDI clip, and we'll put in an, let's see, an F sharp. So there's an F sharp, and I'm going to stretch the F sharp to be the length of this. And then I'm going to time stretch this. This is just a MIDI clip, so time stretching is not actually going to do anything really. Hold down Alt and drag it. So what I want this to be is a single really long note that's played for the full length of the piece that we have here, because the actual enveloping and motion is going to be defined by the automation that runs on this. So let me just play a note. Let's open the filter. So this is low. So hopefully this is just refreshing your memory to what it sounds like. Let me apply some more pressure. So the different pressure levels are going to reflect the different ranks in the circle. So initially we're going to start with maybe let's start with one in the middle, so we're somewhere in between in the sort of complexity. So now I'm going to add the automation lanes. So the automation lanes I need are going to be first CC1, that's the mod wheel. Second, we're going to need pitch bend, because I mentioned that what I wanted was, as the flower's head raises up at the beginning and drops down at the end, I wanted the pitch to shift. So I need that. Other lanes that I need channel pressure, and channel pressure is going to represent the timbre of that particular rank. And the final thing that I need, which I happen to know the CC for, CC29 corresponds to the filter cutoff. So this filter cutoff is actually going to be like an envelope for us. So we're going to be drawing it in like an envelope, and the other parameters are going to be ramping and moving in various ways. Once I've got this all lined up, I'm going to play it alongside the video just so we can hear that it sounds fine, and then I think the process for the day will be complete, and we'll come back once I've done all 12 of these, as opposed to just this one. So the first thing to think about then is pressure. Now, I used the aftertouch or channel pressure to change the timbre intended to be for the different ranks. So there are, I decided, roughly 12 of them. There are actually more, but I think 12 is the way to go. So for maximum interest, I'm going to pick one of the ones in the very center. So I'm going to choose, let me see, rank number 6. So I've labeled that as starting at 22 seconds. So in other words, the petals haven't started to appear until 22 seconds in. They reach what I consider their mature, fully open phase at 43 seconds. Then at 62 seconds, they start to wilt, and their wilting is complete at around 73 seconds. So these are the times that I'm going to be using on our timeline to really shape what's going on here. So the pressure is going to reflect which of the ranks. Now pressure is like a CC, it goes from 0 to 127, and this is number 6. So what I would probably do is I'd say 127 divided by 11 multiplied by 6. But the exact number is not relevant here, so I'm just going to pick a number, and the number will be let's say 62. So this number is a pressure amount that will be consistent across this note playing, and this is going to reflect the timbre of that rank throughout its playing. So that's already set, which is good. Next is pitch bend. Now, pitch bend, I actually set the range of the pitch bend to be 2 semitones, which I experimented with and is a little bit too much of a motion. So we're not actually going to move 100%. We're going to move some smaller amount. And the time at which that happens, sorry, let me just check this, is from the beginning up to 10 seconds in, the head of the flower is raising, and from 75 seconds to 88 seconds, the head of the flower is dropping, and then it's down. So we can draw this automation in then. We can either bring it up to true pitch, or we can start at pitch. My inclination is to start below true pitch. So let's see. we have a number ranging from 100% to minus 100%, representing the full throw of the pitch bend wheel. So let's say we're going to start 25% below true, roughly. And then at the 10-second mark, since these start at 1, that's actually going to be 11, confusingly. I'm going to bring the automation up so as it reaches 0. I can hold shift if I need to do this more precisely. The exact value doesn't matter, so it's close to 0. And then next we're going to go across to the 75 second, which is 76th bar. And we're going to add another automation point. And then at 88 seconds, which is the 89th bar, we're going to pull this back down to about the 25% mark. So what's happening now is this is the pitch bend automation, and this pitch bend automation is going to be the same for each of these tracks. So this is something that I'm going to reuse several times. Let me hit play just to see what's happening. I'm going to open the filter. Okay, so we have some movement going on. We can hear what the timbre is like, but at the moment nothing very interesting is happening. Partly because this note is quite low, partly because the other motions haven't been introduced yet. So let's start on the other motions. So the other motions to think about are the CC29, which is going to be the filter opening, and this modulation amount. So the modulation amount, I listened to it and I estimated that when it hits about the 60% mark, that's when the noise starts to become more present. So that's when I think the wilting of the flower begins. So I have a timeline written for myself here, which is at 22 seconds, the flower is going to start to appear. So I want the filter to be completely closed until the 22-second mark, or 23rd bar, and it is going to open and become completely open, or as open as I want it, on the 43rd second. I experimented with this, and around about 80% filter opening is about correct, so that's what I'm going to use. And then it's going to continue to be open until about the 62-second mark, or the 63rd bar. And it's going to close for the 73rd, which can be here. And now let's zoom out. That doesn't really look very natural, so what I'm going to do is just bring a little curve to it. So this, let's jump in and play. So this is actually not what I wanted to record. So let me cut that and let's paste it where I meant it to go, which is here. Okay, here we go. So that makes a lot more sense. So let's confirm these things. I actually put that in the modulation, which I didn't mean to do. I meant to put it in the filter cutoff. But we got the shape correct. So let's double check that the times look correct. We have pressure, looks good. We have pitch bend, looks good. We have this, which starts where? Nope, I pasted it in the wrong spot. So let's shuffle that across to around about here. So now that's that. And finally, we need the mod wheel automation. And the mod wheel automation is going to start where this starts. It is going to end when the wilting is complete. So it's going to end at the end of this. But I want to set when the wilting begins to be about 60% of this. So let me try that. So first thing at about bar 23, this wants to be 0. And then at bar 73, this wants to be 100%. And at about bar 62, let's say that's here, this wants to be 60%, which corresponds in CC terms to about 75. So what I can do is I can put that control point there. Alternatively, I can just pull the curve down, which makes more sense to me. So let's have a look at these side by side. This is the overall enveloping of the sound. This is the fixed timbre of this particular rank. This is the pitch bend. Note that in this case, the end of the pitch bend really happens after the end of this sound. So we're probably not going to hear it that much. And we have our envelope and we have the timbral change. So now I'm going to try and play this alongside the video to just get a flavor for how this sounds. So let's get ready. So remember, this is not the sound for the outer ranks of petals. This is going to be for what I call the 6th rank. It's going to start coming in soon and I'll be quiet until it completes. Okay, I think that timing all works quite well. The only thing that I don't think is quite right is I wanted the deepest note to be that F that I mentioned, and that should be the outermost rank of petals. So I want this to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more fourths. So we've got F sharp, so we're going to go B, E, A, D, G. So we're going to go to 2 G's up. So let's go. That's 1. That's the first G. Let's keep dragging it. That's the next one. And keep going to the next one. So let me skip in and play just a little. So I think maybe this is a bit too high-pitched because I've got another 12 of these things to go over. So let me bump this down an octave. Let's play again. So I think this is working. So this has probably seemed a little bit haphazard of a process, but what we've done now is we've defined the actual contour of the sound corresponding to the video for some of the petals in the flower. I chose some petals in the middle of the flower, or not all the way in the middle, not all the way on the edge, just to give us something to look at. But what I'm going to do after this video is I'm going to go through and I'm going to use all the times that I've recorded, and I'm going to make a correspondingly shaped sound for each of the ranks of petals. So what's going to happen then is next episode I should have 12 audio recordings which I will have in a project which we will then complete our sound design on, and they should line up and reflect the timbre and movement and feel of the blooming flower. So, I hope this has been interesting to you, despite the rush through. I hope you've enjoyed the series. I hope you'll join me for some more episodes in this series. But most importantly, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.